time hasn't elapsed between something happening. And I think that you can cut the time down quite a bit from doing an hour and a half one-on-one every few weeks. Just what's changed from last week. How can I help you? What are you working on? And just keep the ball rolling. So it's definitely a little bit more hands-on than what my personal style would be. But I think what's evolved from that is that people understand both the timely nature of conversations and expectations on when things are due. I think I can be a better manager because I can understand what people's needs are on a much more frequent basis. So it doesn't feel like I'm absent. And I think I've got a better sense of what's going on. That if it were just an email or Slack channel, I probably wouldn't be getting as much insight into.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that's been a big change for me, and it's been great so far.
Good. Do you think that they would describe your management style the same way that you have described it?
I would guess they would probably say something like my 4 to 5 weeks probably were 6 to 7 or 7 to 8, and so I think in the preceding version where I felt like I have good understanding, they'd be like, well, he's traveling because of this, or he's off here, so not around as much, and when we do our annual reviews and our reports, like direct reports kind of feedback. So I think part of my changing of the management style was in response to direct feedback of would be great to have more time. And so I think for me what's enabled me to do a little bit more of this is hiring additional staff that can do some of the things that I traditionally been doing, whether it's new biz or resource management or other disciplines. So being able to bring in additional help allows me to focus both on the internal and external aspects of the companies in ways that I couldn't do before.
Yeah. Do you think that you're a planner, or do you kind of manage the day-to-day in a more kind of let's see what happens kind of way?
It's probably a mix. I think there's some level of external vision setting where I'm planning for things that are maybe 6 to 12 months out, and whether those are large-scale changes of what does the composition of our company look like 2 quarters from now or 4 quarters from now, and try to align either new business or internal conversations or public events to align to those goals. I think on a day-to-day basis it's probably a mix. There are things that I know I need to get done in the course of the week. So I started out as a producer in advertising, so I'm very list oriented as an individual, and so I definitely have my list of things, and I think sometimes those lists intersect with other people's lists, and that's where I can plan. I think there's enough time that I leave for myself on a day-to-day basis, where it's just like don't schedule something here, and just see what happens, and then I think those kinds of kind of mixing of the plan versus the unplanned kind of keeps me in balance, because you can't predict everything.
Right.
So, but I would probably lean more towards the planning versus not.
And when it comes to your own, let's call it work-life balance, for lack of a better term, or maybe harmony, how does that work out?
It's hard. Work-life balance is hard. I think my wife's been a great supporter of Uncorked and what we've been doing, and she was in advertising, or still is in advertising as well. So understanding the industry that we're in, I think certainly helps. But I think there's times where I get the nudge of turn it off, and I think it's a good nudge to have. It's just kind of reminding yourself, hey, it's put the device away. It's hard. It's a hard thing to achieve. I mean, I think we're fortunate here that we don't have crazy work schedules. I think the balance is more of an internal one where I'll start thinking about something and I'll be in the back of my mind I'm thinking of something else. I don't even have a device in front of my hand, but like I'm thinking about this thing. And I'm here and present, I'm nodding my head, but really I'm just trying to like crack this thing.
Right.
And that's hard because people who don't know you might think like, wow, he's really nodding his head a lot, really cares. People who do know you are like, stop thinking about the thing. I know that you're thinking about that meeting or that conversation or something at work. So being honest with yourself, taking a day to work from home or turning it off on the weekend and just hitting a reset point, I think is really important.
Are there ways that you specifically detox or de-stress yourself?
A couple things. I mean, I like running. So for me, running 2-3 times a week kind of helps. Again, you don't have to carry a piece of technology with you. You can't read an email while you're running, and it's also, nice aerobic exercise helps you, just
Sure.
free up brain cells to think about problems, and it's kind of nice to digest things while you run. I like photography, like fishing. So, getting out, enjoying, the water, the sun, especially in the summers here.
Yeah.
Traveling, Portland historically has been a very rainy place to live, although with, global warming, it's changing. It's going to be a top destination for climate refugees. But, I would say, planning a trip in February or March, and then one again in November, December, where, you're physically changing location and just going somewhere else is kind of a nice reset point to do everything.
Yeah. The future for our industry, this digital design space that we're in, is ambiguous, to say the least.
Yeah.
What do you see coming down the pipe? What's the things that keep you awake at night or get you excited?
Yeah, I think the things that keep me awake at night are, issues of scale. How does this scale? How does it scale beyond what we're doing? We've been growing, and that's great, and we haven't had to shrink, thankfully. But what does saturation look like in this industry? I think we're a little unique in that we don't have a pure set in the type of work that we're doing. That's either a great thing or a really bad thing, and it hasn't been validated, I think, one way or the other. A lot of people just stop at the design. They say, we're just going to design, the implementation is somebody else's problem. To us, that's not really satisfying, because why would you give up something before it ever really gets made?
Right.
We want to see it to completion, but there's a lot more risk that gets carried on, between design and engineering, fulfillment, and then maintaining a product that does get built. So, how does that scale? If you have, a dozen products that you've worked on, either for clients or for yourselves in the marketplace, how does that scale, and how does that grow? So I think those are issues that, keep me up at night. I think, talent, finding talent and bringing talent to Portland is an ongoing kind of quest. I think there's a lot of great talented designers here, and there's great talented engineers, but everyone seems to be employed. Yeah. So if we're growing and everyone else is growing, then I think we need more people to move to Portland. And fortunately, that seems to be the case from a pure census level. But are we getting the right kinds of people to move to Portland? So I think general awareness on what the city has to offer for the design, the tech, the maker community, I think is important for the long-term viability for us as a company, but also for the industry. Yeah. I think things that we have going in our favor with regards to that is, city's really keen on this as well. And so both, the mayor's office and the Portland Development Commission, have focused on technology and creative firms as, part of their 5-year plan, which is really great.
Fantastic.
And we have, some great, companies outside of ourselves, obviously, that are here in Portland that are doing great things. So I think it's becoming more of a magnet for people who are in kind of the creative design and maker industries to come out to. But you have to wonder, where does everybody go? What do they do get here?
Are you directly involved in finding that talent?
I am. So part of my talent recruitment strategies are talking to people that I know or people that I've worked with in previous lifetimes. We also have people that put out job posts and look for people. A lot of the events and public speaking engagements that we do help just raise awareness of who we are and what we're doing, and if and when we're hoping to add staff. People like, oh yeah, I saw you speak at that event, or you did this thing, or you guys were hosting X, Y, or Z. So that helps.
And what kind of role do you play in business development? Are you directly involved? Do you think it's important that the CEO gets involved in that stuff?
Yes, it's very important for the CEO to be involved in that. And up until November of last year, I was doing a lot of business development. So we worked, for the ad agency work that we used to do, a lot of, and now a little bit less of, we work with a talent representation firm that brings us ad agency projects. So from our early days, that really helped us create just a pipeline of projects. As we moved into the innovation work that we do, that was a little bit more challenging to kind of find that. So it was a matter of, being out there, going to conferences and finding similar groups and just reaching out to, our network of people, saying, hey, we're doing this work for Samsung, we're doing this work for Google, we're doing this work for Intel. Do you know of similar groups that are doing the same kinds of projects, or would appreciate a strategic design and development firm that can help build this? So a lot of outreach to get into that. Recently, we hired a director of new business that's helping me make myself more redundant in that respect, which is one of the primary reasons why I have more time now to focus on the internal.
Well, that's one-on-ones.
The one-on-ones, yeah. I mean, that was literally the one hire that allowed me to really focus, because I'm not doing all the business development now. I can
Mm.
transfer things to her. She's doing a lot of outbound, kind of outreach and reaching out to people, and she's leading the efforts to respond to proposals and create
Awesome.
the response. So I can still be a part of that. I know the challenges that are part of that, so I can be part of that process, but I don't have to be the only person who's doing that.
And finally, what do you think you still need to work on? What skills or things that are not quite there yet for you?
For me as an individual or as a company?
No, as an individual.
I mean, I think for me, finding the balance between internal and external outreach, I think is important. So I do a lot of, coffees and meetings with people outside of Uncorked. And I think that's a way that, I get out and into the city and get a good sense of what's going on. I think balancing that with the internal is really important. I think, having difficult conversations sooner. There's it's The Hard Thing About Hard Things, is a book, Horowitz's book.
Right.
Great book. And I think the sooner that you have difficult conversations, the less that you let things ripple within an organization. And I think there have been times historically where we've said, well, this will solve itself, or it'll we'll address it this way, or we'll hire this new person. You can't hire yourself out of every problem that you face. So I think having those difficult conversations sooner is important. I think nailing vision when you're an innovation company or a company doing innovation is really difficult.
Sure.
Because it's hard to predict where anything's going to be, a year or 2 year, down the line. So I think for us, figuring out what that looks like in the near term, so that there's action items, that different departments can take and be actionable on. I think longer term, how can we continue to stay ahead of industry trends as they emerge? That's hard. That's really hard. So I think for me, it's a matter of finding that balance between internal and external, finding that balance